Welcome to the Waves of Joy podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm a mindset empowerment coach and an energy healer. This podcast is about finding joy. It will also be about inspiring people who have built joy-filled lives. You'll hear more about how to find joy through the day, the weeks, the months, and years of your life, and learn about how to spread joy. You'll also hear powerful stories that don't sound joyful at the beginning, but where joy was found. I started this podcast because I wanted to normalize finding joy in the ups and downs of daily life. I hope you feel inspired and entertained. Pop in your earbuds, take me with you on your commute, or both. Let's do this. Find waves of joy. Would you like to feel better and release limiting beliefs? Of course you would. I created a free meditation for you that's downloadable. As soon as you click submit, I'll email you with a downloadable version of this free meditation. Go to brendawinkle.com/feel better. Oh my gosh, Jenny, thank you so much for joining me on Waves of Joy podcast.
So excited to be here, Brenda. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I have admired you from afar for quite some time. And when I got to meet you inside one of Kathy Heller's programs, I was just so taken aback by your approachability and how genuine you are, how heart-centered, and am just thrilled to be able to be in this space with you.
Thank you, Brenda. That's so beautiful. It takes one to know one, so I'm sure that's all speaking from the mirror that is you. So beautiful. Thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. So I've been in the plant-based journey for about 7 years and love it. And I'm so inspired by the idea that you not only created a product that can be plant-forward, plant-based, but then you built this company around it. Could you tell my listeners a little bit about your story and how that came to be?
Totally. Super happy to. So I'm also around 7 years into this game, maybe 8 now, whereby I grew up like literally eating everything. And then 7, 8 years ago, I had one Facebook friend that started sharing videos of what was happening to these animals on these farms. And I like completely could not believe what I was seeing was true or normal. And so I started seeing more undercover investigations and documentaries. And after a while, it became like overwhelmingly apparent that not only does it happen, but it's like fully ubiquitous, happens everywhere, including in like quote unquote happy farms, local, organic, grass fed. It really doesn't mean so much in terms of if you ever loved a dog, you're definitely not okay with what's happening to any of the animal food that you buy, which includes, dairy and eggs and fish, really all of it. I wound up inconveniently finding out like the inconvenient truth. And so I told my very meat and potatoes husband around that time where we need to find a new way to consume food. He was not exactly excited about that because I didn't have any Michelin stars, far from it. So I painstakingly learned how to cook from the produce and grain sections at the grocery store. A lot of bad meals along the way. After a while, the food was getting good and better and sometimes quite awesome. And I was getting a little more confidence in the plant-based kitchen. And I actually started this food blog that wound up being a bit of a failure. But because I had this failing food blog, I was deep into all these different cookbooks. And at some point in time, I said, I want a good deli sandwich. That's really what I crave. I'm Jewish and I know good deli meat. And I actually have like deli owning relatives way back when. And so I said to myself, like, there's nothing that's that good out there. I want to make something. And I did not think it would be a business. I just thought it would be for my home kitchen. I wanted to make it. And so I made this kind of corned beef pastrami hybrid in my home kitchen, made with beets and chickpeas and tomatoes and protein-rich grains and spices. And folks loved it so much in my immediate orbit, like friends and family and neighbors, that they pushed me for several months to try and sell it or do something with it or make it on like a larger scale. And after I said no to them for quite a few months, I ultimately wound up renting a tiny commercial kitchen where I cooked it myself and sold to the local delis around Los Angeles, like little individual deli establishments that could buy from like someone kind of on the street. Because it's a lot less official than when you're dealing with like a multi-unit place naturally. And so I sold it like shop to shop, at deli to deli. And then from there, I started reaching out to my local Whole Foods, and they brought on a pre-made sandwich. And then I found what's known as a co-packer, basically means someone who could make the food for me so that I could do the sales and wear pretty pink sweaters and not be doing dishes. So I've had that, a wonderful, merit to be able to really try and sell this thing and grow this thing. And I wound up on Shark Tank at the end of 2019. I made a really incredible deal with Mark Cuban. He's become like an incredible partner, I think partly because I've been a really great communicator. I reach out to him every week with updates from the week, and it's gone a long way in terms of having that, regular rapport. And today we have 3 deli meats that span across today like 3,500 stores. Our corned beef, our steak slices, and our Unreal roasted turkey. And so all of these meats, they're made with whole vegetables and like real food. And they're all across the country and growing into many more locations over the coming year plus.
It is so inspiring and so important. One of the things that I fell into when I first started my journey into not eating animals was I tried to replace all of the meat products with, kind of these chemical types of things. And so I have such appreciation for the fact that your products are made of real food.
Yeah, real food, ingredients you can pronounce the names of. Yeah, I mean, we ultimately had to put in a couple things that like extended the shelf and other things to make it like really food grade and big. Thank you. I have a 3-year-old. That's also part of the story. Anyway, and yeah, so having like real food in there is like of like super important, strong, very important to me, because like if I wouldn't feed it to my kids, like what am I going sharing this with the rest of the country? So that's a biggie. But also just showing people how there's another way to enjoy a sandwich, and because no one really ever wanted to hurt an animal or the earth or themselves by eating a delicious sandwich. They just wanted a delicious sandwich. So I'm giving them what they really wanted all along.
That's amazing. And, one of the parts of your story that just stands out to me is there was this idea that you wanted something, and instead of waiting for someone else to do it, you just did it.
Yeah, I saw what was out there. It was like really quite weak. A lot of the brands have been around since like the 80s and 90s and not much innovation. And I was like, there's got to be something better than this. And there was really no corned beef. And I was like, that's like really what I want the most. That's like, the sexiest. So so I had to go out and do it myself. That's right.
I love it. I love it. And when you first started doing this, I imagine that did you see this kind of creation, this company, or was it just wanting a nice meal?
I mean, it all started from like wanting to like really have an amazing sandwich, but then I did start to dream. There were a couple of nights where my husband and I, after we sold to like the first couple delis, I opened up like my notepad and we were like, where could it possibly go? And we were typing up arenas and hotels and like places we're still not even yet in today, because there are a lot of distribution and things that have to get set up to make that happen. And so we're in process on that, but just dreaming way big, which was a beautiful thing. But all along, I mean, each step has really just been like learning on the job. Like, what do I need to take care of here to like move this thing to the next step? In fact, when I credit my in-laws because they thought I was taking my family on like this crazy hippie diet crusade. And so when they tasted the corned beef, and my mother-in-law was like, this is amazing. And she goes, you're Mrs. Goldfarb. And I said, wow, yeah, I am Mrs. Goldfarb. And then my husband said, and it's Unreal corned beef. I was like, yeah, Unreal. I was like, maybe I can buy Unreal Deli for like $3.99. I got the domain. And yeah, all of it just kind of like look, it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of stress, don't get me wrong, but the joys and like the fluidity of it all and how I'm learning on the job, but it also unfolds itself as we go. It's been a really remarkable and beautiful process.
That's amazing. I love it. I work with women. I do a lot of coaching.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I hear women say is, I'm not ready yet. I
Right.
need to do these things. And they have a list, or
Sure.
I need to be at this level. And what I'm hearing you say is, you are giving yourself permission to learn as you go.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because you're never ready. I mean, like, imagine if anyone out there is like a mother, like, when are you ready to be a mom? No one's ever ready. No one ever knows like what that experience is like. I'm
Mhm.
still not even sure that I'm ready now that I think of another 3 kids. But yeah, I mean, all of life is learning on the job. I saw a meme recently that was like, we're all faking it, including eyeliner and every other thing that's happening. Like, we're all just kind of making it up as we go. So I remember I was selling one of those first delis, and the deli owner was like, "Great, it's delicious. We'll take it." And he goes, "You do have food liability insurance, don't you?" And I was like, "Why, yes, I do." And I'm Googling it under the booth table, to signing on board that afternoon, learned all about food liability. So yeah, you're never ready. You never like know all the things until you're out there getting messy, doing it, trying to sell it, getting rejected, learning from that, coming at it at a new angle. Like that's there this is not a dress rehearsal, this game of life. So yeah, there's no being ready.
There's
Go to it.
no being ready. I love this so much. This is how I tend to
Oh,
operate in my life too.
great.
It's just
Good.
like, go for it
Yeah,
and figure it out as I'm doing it.
sure.
It's so fun and
Sure.
exhilarating. I love
Sure.
it.
There's
And,
nothing like playing in real life.
oh my gosh, it's true. It's
Okay,
true.
good.
And
Mhm.
you talked about dealing with the rejection, and the way that you talked about it made me realize that that was something that you had worked through, and that it's not a thing for you. And for a lot of the women that I work with, it still is a thing.
Yeah.
How would you say you changed your mindset around being able to weather those rejections?
I think having an outlook in the first place, knowing that I'm looking to bring something like authentic, passionate, good, kind into the world, meant that if someone was like, "It sucks, I hate this, I like real meat, kill the cows," like, that's not on me. That's on
Mm-hmm.
whatever they're up to. I know I'm bringing something delicious into the world. If you don't want to try it or have it, or it's like it doesn't have to, cloud my day. I remember one of the first delis I called up. I was like cold calling delis for quite a while in the earliest days, and one of them, amazing. Sorry, Halloween costumes are getting tried on in the background. Okay. Um, and I remember one of the earliest delis I called up and I said, "Hey, my name is Jenny Goldfarb and I make all this amazing, and I remember they said to me, I gave this whole long spiel why this is the future of food and da da da. And they were like, "Yeah, we try samples," meaning like all I had to say was, "Do you guys try samples?" I didn't have to give this whole lot. So I learned that right from that one call. And then later on that call, the woman said to me, "But how dare you call me during lunchtime?" And I hung up the phone and my tail was between my legs and I was like, "Oh darn." And then I said, "No calling during 11 and 1:30. I got it now." Like I uncovered a very big piece of information that was actually helpful. So a
Yes.
lot of times those rejections, they like push you on your course. So to have that outlook when things don't go your way is very, very beneficial.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So then it becomes an asset. So the rejection is a learning vehicle that we can turn into
Sure.
the next thing.
Sure. And once you get over your own ego, you're like, "This is incredible. I can do this every day."
This is so
So,
fun.
yeah.
Exactly. And then the belief in your product, and you believe 100% in your product. I can feel it. It's just like
For
oozing out of
sure.
every pore.
It's delicious. So, I absolutely am a believer.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Yay.
I had an experience that I won't share with you, but it was traumatic when I was a child regarding animal and eating animals. And I have been sort of meat averse
Yeah.
for most of my life. And when I finally said to myself and everyone around me, I'm not going to eat this at all, ever, under
Yeah.
any circumstances, there was this sense of freedom. And I'm an energy healer, so I'm a little bit woo-woo. I'll just admit
Okay.
that.
Great. I love
And
it.
I felt also like I was freer
Yeah.
because I felt like there was something energetic that was really toxic about the meat for me, and not for
Yeah,
everybody, but for me.
for
And
sure.
um,
I'd be happy to speak to that for a second because it's like amazing to me that society is okay with like taking these animals, and really the only reason we're okay with it is because it happens behind closed doors, but the fact that we're like causing such trauma to these animals, and then we're literally consuming that trauma.
mhm.
You don't even have to be an energy healer to know that that is like not cool. Okay, like
Yes.
like you could believe in like religion and like God, or you could believe in spirituality, or you could believe in energy or karma or any of those things. You're not okay with consuming this because it literally like suffered in like the worst way, and now you want to make that like what fuels your body. No, you don't. Now that you're thinking about it, you're talking to me and Brenda.
Yeah, no, you really don't. You're just
Right,
eating adrenaline and cortisol in the worst quantities.
in the worst quantities. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah. I love what you said about cooking for your in-laws, and
Yeah,
they were skeptics, so to
totally.
speak. And I have found that in my experience too, that the more I dive into the plant-based cooking, the better my food tastes. And a lot of people don't even necessarily know that they're eating only plants
Right.
because it's so flavorful and so good.
And the only thing that ever made meat or any of it flavorful in the first place were the herbs and spices and that you put onto it. So we've got all that. We keep
Exactly.
that,
Yes,
and
keep
we keep
that.
our plants taste good. Yes,
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
so
Um,
good.
so you were talking about learning the inconvenient truth. And I think that that comes up for us in so many ways, whether it's realizing that the food we're consuming is not good for us,
Yep,
or realizing that our habits are not productive.
yep,
It can mean any number of things. When
totally.
when you were talking on Kathy Heller's
Yeah.
call, you were talking about time management. And
Hmm.
you were talking about how you had just had your third
Yep,
baby when
yep,
this all happened.
yep.
Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Totally. So I was brand new pregnant with my third child when I made this corned beef recipe for the first time. So the entire beginning of the business, when I was like telling the story how I rented the kitchen and I was cooking it and washing dishes, I was driving around in Los Angeles to try and set all of that, was pregnant, 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 more and more pregnant. Finally had the baby at the end of June of 2019. And like a day later, I got a phone call from Whole Foods that this deal that I was pursuing for months was finally going to go through. So that was like just a beautiful little twist there. And I really had to get smart with my time. I did have help for that baby during the day. Thank God I had some child care. But nonetheless, I had two other children I had to spend time with. I still wanted to be a good mom. And so one of the sweetest ways that I was able to implement that is by keeping Shabbat with my family. Shabbat is a Jewish custom whereby for 25 hours a week, it goes from Friday night until Saturday night, to be just like totally off the grid, totally with work, and also largely with social media or anything else buzzing at you. That like anything that's not totally present is like just not relevant during that entire day. And to even have a mindset during this day of like, I already made it. I already sold the business. Everything's already good. And like when you have that headspace and you're also not working, you're so plugged in and present with the children, the spouse, you're taking a walk, whatever's happening, you're so much more there for the party. So that's one way that I manage my time. I also just like to be a very efficient kind of worker, making sure to like I don't know, keep meetings so that like people have notes before the call happens, so that when you're on the call, you can like advance like 20 more yards down the field than you would of just like coming in, popping the idea. Okay, think about it. Let's go home. It's like, no, no, send out the idea. Then people can think about it. Then when they come on the call, it's like, hey, how do we actually make this come to life? This is what I want to do. What do you want to do to bring this to fruition? So that's like another way to sort of help manage the time. I'm also into like only really working when I'm in a kind of good headspace and good zone. So if I'm having a day where I'm feeling like, I don't know, a little depressed or a little uncertain or like a little wishy-washy or thinking about some other things, like I'm not cooking up gorgeous sales emails. I'm already not, because I don't have like the energy for it, but I'm also not like, I know not to go opening up blank documents of like, who can I write to? How can I drum up new exciting business? Like that's not the zone for that. But then, if I can get myself in the zone, which isn't so hard. I mean, science has made it quite clear that writing a gratitude list or meditating for 10 minutes or doing a kind deed for someone, like any of these things can get you in that zone. And when you're in that zone, to be doing writing a beautiful letter to someone on LinkedIn or trying to open that next like wonderful door. So it's funny, right when we hung up on that call, that Kathy Heller call, I was in a really good zone. I'd like just shared all this good love with people. And I wrote an email to this buyer who I've been like trying to get for the longest. And previously I noticed that oftentimes when I would write to like a big buyer, I would be like, hey, this is like the cool thing that's been happening lately. Here's a recent win, like to almost justify my writing. And so anyway, this day I was feeling really clear and I just wrote, hey, where are we with the setup? I'm excited to start working with you. And the guy wrote me right back, because I guess he got the memo on that energy. And he was like, hey, yeah, we're just doing that. And I was like, wow, I didn't even have to say anything to like try and prove myself. So that was revelatory even to me. But yeah, the time management is also like managing your like levels of joy and your energy and your spiritual, proximity in order to be able to figure out when's the best, most productive time for me to be doing what. So
Yes, yes. I love everything about this. Working only when you're in a good zone is so
yeah,
critical. And it's something that we discount in our society. We get action oriented and we feel like we have to check boxes no matter what. And I have found, like you, that if I'm in the right place, whether it's because I've danced it out or because I've meditated or called a friend or whatever I've done, I know that my results are different. I'll give you a really recent example. I put my house on the market on Friday. And on Friday, I was feeling a little bit stressed just because I was, the last minute bits of the open house presentation and that kind of thing. And then I realized when I left, I bet I left that energetic signature everywhere. So I went back in on Saturday and I just meditated in every room and I just sent the house love. And I did that again yesterday and then it sold.
Wow. Amazing. Look at you. Right? Because that's what
Yeah.
people really want to buy. That's what they want to buy into when they buy deli meat or houses or healing programs. They want to buy that energy.
Yeah. They want
Very
to feel
nice,
good
Brenda.
too. Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. When you said spiritual proximity, that resonated with me. And I think that it can be easily underestimated, the importance of some kind of spiritual practice, whatever that looks like for people. And I have heard you talk about this and wondered if you could share.
Yeah. So look, I have certain things that I do. Some of them are like Hebrew prayers that go back to like Kabbalists and like the mystical Jewish like bend of things that the way I've come close to God. But there are so many paths, and God loves all of his children, and there are so many ways to be a receptacle and a recipient. And so one very key way in order to create what's known as like this like kind of magical circuitry is to make a point with everything that we bring in, money, time, energy, whatever comes to us, that we share with a little piece of that, and not too much of that or it can be wasteful. Our teachings say 10 to 20, no more than 20% of everything you're given. You're actually given a little bit extra so that you get the pleasure of giving, because what a pleasure it is to give. What a greater pleasure it is to give in this world than even to receive, because we actually get to emulate being like a creator by giving. Like that's like the greatest pleasure in the world. That's why they say sex feels so good, because you're in this place where you're creating like something from nothing. So you're like in like the greatest creator place in that experience. And that's actually why that's such an incredible pleasure. And so in all the ways that we can give, like specifically my time on this call right now, giving like whatever money, time. In Judaism, we have this thing where the man and the woman actually separate for the time that the woman has her menstrual cycle, and then they come back together. And so we also say that that time apart is like you're like almost tithing with that time, and then when you come back together, it's like this incredible union. I've heard a rabbi say that we have the trademark on good marriages, because it's like this longing and this separation, and then this like girlfriend, like I feel like I'm like a hot girlfriend once a month again, that like things don't get stale on that basis. And so whatever, there is all sorts of like beautiful deep reasoning for it, but the bottom line is anything that comes to you to share with some of that. And
That
so
is beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And oh my gosh, there's so much goodness to unpack there. And I think that the idea of giving and receiving being in a cycle is so beautiful and so rich. And just to think about being willing to allow that to happen, because there is an allowance that needs to happen.
Yeah. That's right.
My gosh. So good. So good.
So juicy.
It's so juicy. Oh, wow. Yeah. Love it. So I was raised in northwestern Nebraska.
Okay.
And I had a babysitter who I called by her last name. And I don't want to say it to protect her identity. She's passed, but she took care of me from the time I was 2 months old until, well, she passed away. I had a child by the time she passed away. And she came over from Germany in World War II. And she was a big part of my life. And I didn't know until she passed that she had raised us in Jewish traditions.
Wow.
And so we celebrated Shabbat every Friday night.
Are you serious?
Yes, we had the red candles. It was so
amazing.
special. And I didn't know it until years after she passed. And it was just so grounding to have that practice. Yeah.
Based on our history, the Jewish people have been like exterminated and executed and told to leave like so many times in history. The Kabbalists say those souls aren't like gone. Those souls are there. They had to go undercover for whatever reason. And so the fact that you had these traditions that were like perhaps your soul too, anyway, and that's why you're talking to Kathy and me, and anyway, so who knows what's going on with you, Brenda.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely some reason that I'm just drawn into this space. It feels so good. Something's happening. It's true. Well, I have 5 questions. And when I came up with these questions originally, I thought they were going to be rapid fire. Turns out they never are, but they're fun. So
well, we can try. Is that the goal? Because I am very New York, so that's like part of my bloodstream.
You know what? You can make the goal be whatever you want. You can go fast, you can go deep. It doesn't matter. Cool. It's your experience. So the first question is, what is in your morning mug?
So I make, first off, there is caffeine in there, but I also make my own kind of homemade almond milk that I then put dates and maca powder and cacao powder and salt and cinnamon into, and make this unbelievable chocolate milk. The only reason I don't sell it is because it doesn't have a good shelf life, but it's for sure sellable and incredibly delicious. And so I make my own chocolate almond milk, and I put that in with some espresso. So that's in my morning mug.
Wow. That sounds amazing.
Yay.
Amazing. Who inspires you?
I'm really inspired by my dad, who was a longtime entrepreneur, had various levels of success, but is like just one of the sweetest humans in the world, and a tremendous like kindness and seeing the big picture, and knows how to like fly over the battle scene and like see till tomorrow and know where we're going. And I have like this like amazing just love and honor and respect for him.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Is there a song that every time you hear it, you're like, yes, and you can just feel the power running in you?
Wow. Totally. Of course there are many songs. I've been humming along to Paul Simon's "When the Leaves That Are Green Turn to Brown," and every time that comes on my little Alexa playlist, I'm like, yeah, let's party. So I don't know. I'm like an oldies girl. I'm not the coolest, maybe, but yeah, I'll go with that for the season anyway.
That's a great answer, and it's perfect for the season.
Here we go.
Do you listen to podcasts? Is there one that you love?
I listened to a little bit of Kathy, and I listened to a woman named Barry Weiss, who I think has this incredible political voice, who I love, Bariwiss. Worked at the New York Times and at the Wall Street Journal, and was a little more centered than some of like what was happening on the far left, and she had to leave, but she has this like fabulous voice and extremely sound, good reasoning on like, oh, I learned so much interesting stuff from her. So yeah, that would be the
I
one.
love that. I love that.
So, yeah.
If you
Yeah.
ever get into a funk and you
Yeah.
are feeling frustrated or
Yeah.
sad or scared, what do you do to flip the switch and access joy?
Yeah. So I'm into a practice of like just doing like super straight talking to God, which might sound like really foreign or scary to anyone who's like not, I don't know, hasn't heard of any of this before, but the idea of like being like straight up like, God, I need help right now. I can't do this. I don't know how I'm going to handle that, and like talking that out has really helped me. It's almost like talking to a therapist, but free. And even though it might seem like imaginary friendish, the point is that as we get it out, we realize that like maybe it's actually not that big. And maybe if we just sort of like direct there a little bit, there's like a little crack in all those clouds, and we can like, oh, go hit it from that angle. And so talking to God is my answer on that, as maybe super religious-y as that might sound.
I actually think that sounds pretty grounded because
Oh,
I do something similar. I'm always like, I need some guidance right now. Could you please help me?
yeah,
Please help me. Show me a sign. Talk to me. Help me understand.
yeah.
So that resonates.
I
Uh,
like that.
oh. Jenny, you are incredible. Where can people find you if they want to try Unreal Deli or connect with you?
Great. So unrealdeli.com is the site, and at it there's a find near me, so you can see what stores near you might have you. And if we don't have anyone near you today, it'll be soon before we do. Also, we ship everywhere in the US from also from the website. And our Instagram is Unreal Deli. My personal one is Mrs. Goldfarb, Mrs. Goldfarb. And yeah, Facebook and all the other places as well, but soon TikTok. Not quite yet, but soon. And anyway, I would love you, Brenda, and your followers to be able to try our delicious deli meat and revolutionize your sandwiches, and be incredible women who are following
Yes.
you, so they're already doing something great.
Oh, thank you. That's
Yay.
very sweet. Oh my gosh, I have loved this so much. Thank
So
you.
lovely. Thank you.
This is a treat.
Amazing.